everyone a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas, Delhi's air quality continuing to be in the very poor category. Hill stations in India also witnessing poor AQI. What is the way out as anger boils over on the ground? How long before the people can breathe clean air? Why does the policy remain reactive and not preventive? We're discussing this in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, telling you all about Vladimir Putin's new missile warning and the latest from the battlefield. Getting you a detailed report on what the people in Gaza are going through with heavy rainfall adding to their misery. All this and more coming up. Our top story is from India, not just Delhi, different parts across the country breathing toxic air. It's a calamity to say the least, and governments are cutting a rather sorry figure. Today, Delhiites woke up to toxic hazy smog all over again, the air quality continuing to plummet. In fact, the latest AQI being 373. The dominant killer in the air being PM 2.5, microscopic particles that go straight into your lungs and your bloodstream. This is no longer just about discomfort, it's about damage, permanent damage, in fact. Just look at the pollution map of India tonight. Delhi standing at 373 AQI. Noida is worse, 397. Gurugram at 276. Lucknow, 195. And then comes the uncomfortable truth. Even hill stations in India losing their clean air tag. Although India's Central Pollution Board does not have Srinagar data, pollution monitors reporting that the city crossed 200 mark this week. Places that once were labeled as clean air escapes are now also experiencing bad air. Dehradun, a hill town, recorded 243 AQI. So clearly this crisis is no longer limited to just the cities we've been talking about. Other parts like Mumbai standing at 138, Kolkata 179, Bengaluru at 95, offering some relief, at least for now. Against this hazy backdrop and after massive protests by the citizens on the ground, from today, Delhi has enforced a strict rule, no pollution under control certificate, no fuel, which basically means fuel stations are barred from refueling vehicles without a valid pollution certificate. Meanwhile, other stringent anti-pollution measures continuing. Trucks carrying construction material remain banned under the Graded Action Plan rules, also called GRAP 4. But then critics are saying the measures have become far too late. Because even as enforcement tightens, nature has made matters even worse. Dense fog blanketed Delhi NCR this morning. Visibility dropped to 200 meters in some parts. orange alert being issued, road traffic slowed down, flights were disrupted, forecasters warning that this may continue as the winter intensifies. And as Delhi chokes, the crisis also reached the parliament. The Lok Sabha set to hold a detailed discussion on the air pollution in Delhi NCR. In fact, already the opposition has been demanding answers over delayed action, weak enforcement, and reactive policy making, because this is no longer just Delhi's problem. Clearly, it is a regional and also in a way a national failure. Public anger boiling over. Across social media, citizens are asking one question time and again. Why does it always take such kind of intervention? Why does it always take the Supreme Court to step in before action is taken, for example? Remember, on Wednesday, the Supreme Court termed the measures taken so far by the government a total failure. Sent the Commission for Air Quality Management back to the drawing board, calling for a comprehensive long-term strategy to address this annual crisis. It is an annual crisis, unfortunately. The Apex Court specifically asked the body to focus on issues like urban mobility, cleaner industrial processes, energy use, and also stubble burning. The court reminded the authorities that ad hoc and short-term responses cannot deliver any meaningful reduction in the pollution levels. It also emphasized that any sustainable solution must be implemented in a phased manner and backed by coordinated action across states. It's because GRAP enforcement to vehicle bans, many of the major interventions were driven by court orders in a way, not political will. Online, people are furious. Speaking of burning eyes, breathlessness, persistent cough, social media platforms buzzing with hashtags, demanding accountability, demanding answers. Critics are saying India's pollution policy remains reactive, never preventive. Large parts of the country breathing toxic air. Health experts have been warning of long-term lung damage and what they are calling silent deaths. Children, the elderly, outdoor workers, all paying the price and living through this nightmare day in and day out. So that question remains. Who is accountable? Who will take responsibility for this permanent damage to our lungs? Switching gears now, Moscow has sent out a loud and clear message to Kiev, Europe, and Washington. Russia is preparing for a long war if Ukraine and its backers abandon dialogue, and it is doing so by expanding the ground operations across the battlefield, deploying new missiles and air defense systems, all under a nuclear shadow. The Russian president, in fact, told an expanded meeting of Russia's defense ministry that Russian forces are maintaining what he called the strategic initiative across the entire front line. The Russian leader saying Russian troops have captured more than 300 settlements this year, more than 300, including parts that he said Ukraine had turned into fortified strongholds. That's what he says. Now, while the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine is saying that Russia has deployed around 710,000 troops for a large-scale strategic offensive against Kiev, that's not even all. Putin, on the other hand, warning that Moscow can further accelerate its offensive and expand a security buffer zone, insisting that the objectives of Russia's special military operation will be achieved. He cautioned that Russia would seize more territory if Kiev and European leaders continue to reject the US-backed peace proposals. Putin also stressing on the role of Russia's strategic nuclear forces, saying that they remain central to deterrence and what he described as the global balance of power. On the battlefield and beyond, the war continues unabated. According to Russia, at least 3 people were killed, several others were injured in an overnight Ukrainian drone attack in the Rostov region. The strike sparked a fire in a residential building in Bataysk city. Putin also announced that the Orishnik missile system will be placed on combat duty by the end of 2025. The system, remember, was used for the first time in Ukraine in November 2024. He also confirmed successful tests of the Burevestnik strategic cruise missile and the Poseidon unmanned underwater vehicle, underscoring Russia's continued focus on advanced strategic weapons. Now, according to Russian media, the defense minister announced that the first regiment equipped with the S-500 Prometheus system has officially entered combat duty. The S-500, remember, is a next-generation air and missile defense system designed to counter threats from aircraft to advanced ballistic missiles. And reports say the S-500 is expected to remain operational for at least 25 years and can intercept missiles with ranges up to 3,500 kilometers, including intercontinental ballistic missiles, in their terminal and mid-course phases. The military upgradation is not just limited to Moscow, of course. In neighboring Poland, Warsaw announced that US Patriot air and missile defense systems have achieved full combat readiness to help counter missiles, aircraft, drones, marking a major development in both the country's defense modernization efforts as well as NATO's Eastern Front. And speaking of what's happening on the diplomatic front, the Kremlin has said that Russia is preparing to contact the United States for procuring details about the US talks with the European powers and Ukraine on a possible peace settlement to end the war. And all of this happening amid reports that US and Russian officials will be meeting in Miami this weekend itself. The White House is meant to preserve history, but under Donald Trump, it seems it is now rewriting it with insults. In an unprecedented move, President Trump has installed new plaques inside the White House that openly attack his Democratic predecessors. That's right, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. And this is turning one of America's most iconic institutions into a stage for personal grievance, it seems. Journalists given access to the West Colonnade this week noticed newly placed plaques beneath the official portraits of former presidents, and they noticed that the language was rather striking, also inflammatory, reportedly. Just have a look at these visuals. Under Joe Biden's name, the plaque calls him, quoting, by far the worst president in American history, quote unquote. It also repeats Donald Trump's false claim that the 2020 election was stolen, a claim that he continues to talk about even though it has been rejected by the courts, election officials, and also Trump's own administration officials. In fact, this move follows an earlier controversy when Donald Trump replaced former President Biden's portrait with an image of an auto pen, a not so subtle reference to Trump's claim that Biden was too senile to govern. Under Barack Obama's portrait, the plaque describes America's first black president as, I'm quoting, one of the most divisive political figures in American history, quote unquote. And the inscription also includes Obama's middle name, echoing Trump's earlier conspiracy theories about Obama's legitimacy and birthplace. And of course, the contrast is sharp when it comes to Trump's own plaque. It praises achievements critics say are exaggerated or unverifiable, including claims of ending 8 conflicts in 8 months and attracting trillions of dollars in investment. Fact checkers saying those numbers do not stand up to scrutiny. Now, these plaques are only the latest change inside the White House since Trump's return to office. A lot has happened. The East Wing has been completely torn down to make way for a lavish new ballroom. And as we've been telling you, gold accents now dominate the Oval Office, portraits of Trump himself hanging on the walls, breaking the long-standing tradition that presidents display their image only after leaving office. Trump supporters say, and they see it as transparency, but critics are calling it vindictiveness. But historians at the same time are warning that this marks a deeper shift from preserving presidential legacy to weaponizing it. Moving on, we are putting the spotlight on an Indian semiconductor company that has surged over 55,000%. Let me just say that again, 55,000%. RRP Semiconductor Limited, it's an India-listed company that basically rebranded itself in the year 2024 after previously operating in real estate and trading activities. And despite that name, reports suggesting it has not even started semiconductor manufacturing yet. It employs only a handful of staff and has no direct participation in India's government-backed chip incentive programs. And experts are saying RRP Semiconductor's rise has become one of the most striking examples of speculative excess tied to the global artificial intelligence boom. The stock surged more than 55,000% in under 2 years, briefly making it the world's best performing billion-dollar company by share price appreciation. The rally unfolded despite weak fundamentals, negligible operating activity reportedly, and a lack of proven exposure reportedly to the semiconductor supply chain. This surge was fueled by a potent mix of AI enthusiasm, limited domestic chip-making options for Indian investors, and also aggressive social media promotion. The thing is, regulatory scrutiny has since intensified. India's market regulator reportedly examining the trading pattern and concerns amid the concerns around disclosures, past compliance issues linked to promoter entities, and the irregularities surrounding share allotments. The company has also acknowledged that it is yet to commence semiconductor operations and has reported negative revenue and continuing losses after reversing the previously booked sales. And this story, in a way, mirroring growing global anxiety around pockets of the AI trade. While the AI rally has caused jitters, experts are noting that the technology itself can be transformational.
Many of the AI companies also will go bust, as always happens during all technology revolutions. But the big difference from this technology revolution and, for example, 2001, is that Enron, which was the key company in 2001, that was sort of a story company. It was built on the promise of future returns. And there were no returns. So it was shallow. When sentiment crashed, the company crashed as well. And then we had a proper crash. This time, the big difference this time is we still have lots of promises, but the key players like Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, they are actually very profitable and have lots of liquidity. And they can go down 30, 50% and still not run into solvency problem.
Yet, regulators from China to South Korea have issued warnings as AI-linked stocks experience sharp swings as enthusiasm cools and oversight tightens. Experts are saying RRP Semiconductor now stands less as an AI success story and more as a cautionary signal of how rapidly hype can inflate valuations worldwide. Moving on for now, Palestinians struggling to pick up the pieces after days of torrential rain triggered deadly flooding across the territory there, which has killed at least 12 people, including a 2-week-old baby who died from hypothermia as the freezing water swept through the makeshift shelters there. Some parts recorded more than 150 millimeters or nearly 9 inches of rainfall, overwhelming the drainage systems, flooding camps where the displaced people have been sheltering for months now. Tents submerged, belongings washed away. Already fragile structures gave way. Emergency crews have urged the residents to stay away from the damaged buildings. But for many in Gaza, there is simply nowhere else to go.
Because of the rain, we spent the entire night trying to sweep away the water. We stayed in this square all night, sweeping away the water and moving our children from place to place, not knowing where to go. We have no shelter to protect ourselves from the water and this mess.
The storm sweeping across the Palestinian territory flooded tents, makeshift shelters, bringing more hardship to the people there. Nearly all of them have faced displacement in more than 2 years of that war.
As you can see, in this tent we have no blankets. There are 6 of us sleeping on one mattress, and we cover ourselves with our clothes. As you can see, there is a bad weather, and we were flooded inside the tent. You can see the inside is full of water. We have been submerged, even our clothes were soaked, and we don't know how to change them. As you can see, I have metal plates, and there isn't even a clinic to treat my leg.
In fact, the United Nations International Organization for Migration saying almost 800,000 displaced people are living in low-lying, rubble-filled areas where water accumulates fast and drainage is almost non-existent. The organization, the International Organization for Migration saying basic materials like timber, plywood, sandbags and water pumps have not been allowed into Gaza due to the access restrictions. Israel insists aid is entering and accuses agencies of mismanagement. Aid groups have been completely denying these allegations, with more than 1.5 million people still displaced and 300,000 new tents urgently needed. The humanitarian situation remains dire on the ground. And before we go on any further, getting you a complete roundup of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption moves with Air Force procurement also targeted. That's coming up next. And a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. What exactly are ghost jobs and why are the US and the UK concerned? Telling you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. On to Australia now, following the horror that unfolded at one of its most iconic beaches. Gunmen opened fire as hundreds celebrated Hanukkah, leaving the entire world shocked. And now, as Australia tries to pick up the pieces, it's also looking at a crackdown on hate speech. In fact, the Australian Prime Minister has promised a crackdown on hate speech in the wake of that attack. The Home Affairs Minister reportedly will be given new powers to cancel or refuse visas for those who spread hate. And a new task force reportedly will be set up to ensure the education system prevents, tackles, and properly responds to anti-Semitism. Let's just break this down further. The Australian Prime Minister has said the government will seek to introduce legislation that makes it easier to charge people promoting hate speech and violence. He said penalties would be increased, cancelling or refusing visas would be made easier, and a regime for targeting organizations whose leaders engage in hate speech would be developed. Expressing his anger while announcing the reforms, the leader said new laws will target those who spread hate, division, and radicalization. The government has said it has consistently denounced anti-Semitism over the last 2 years. It passed legislation to criminalize hate speech, and in August, it expelled the Iranian ambassador after accusing Tehran of directing 2 anti-Semitic arson attacks in Sydney and Melbourne. But anti-Semitic incidents are mounting. In fact, a 19-year-old Sydney man was charged and will face court after allegedly threatening violence towards a Jewish person on a flight from Bali to Sydney.
está pasando, pero no sé qué.
Police say the Sydney attack was carried out by Sajid Akram and his 24-year-old son, Naveed. Sajid was shot dead by the police at the scene, while Naveed Akram was charged with 59 offences, including murder and terror charges. His case has been adjourned until April 2026. In fact, the leader of New South Wales, where the attack took place, has said he would next week recall the state parliament to pass urgent reforms on gun laws. Police looking into Australia-based Islamic State networks, as well as the gunmen's alleged links to militants in the Philippines, reportedly. A celestial object defying the laws of physics as it rushes towards our planet. NASA and European agencies are on high alert. UN's International Asteroid Warning Network is closely watching. Our next report telling you how the 3i Atlas is not just a comet, it's a cosmic enigma arriving today.
It's not behaving like a comet, not even close. 3i Atlas, the interstellar object hurtling towards our planet, is bending the very rules of physics. Scientists say it's accelerating, but not from solar pressure. Its course is changing, erratically, mysteriously, as if something inside it is controlling the motion. Telescopes across the world are locked on. NASA, the European Space Agency, and the UN's International Asteroid Warning Network have moved to constant monitoring. The object's green glow now burns brighter than expected, cutting through telescopic feeds like an emerald wound in the night sky. And then, the anomaly. An anti-tail, a jet of dust and gas pointing towards the sun, not away from it. Nothing in known physics explains this. Not solar wind, not rotation, not gravitational drag. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb calls it a sign of something engineered, not random.
The object exhibited non-gravitational acceleration, meaning that it deviated from a path that is sculpted by gravity alone. And the level of deviation is such that I calculated it must have lost a significant fraction of its mass. If it's a natural comet, it should have lost somewhere between 10 and 20% of its mass, and there should be a massive cloud of gas around it.
NASA said the European Space Agency has intensified observations, pooling data from ground-based telescopes and space assets. The UN's International Asteroid Warning Network is tracking the object as a matter of protocol, not threat. Officials stress there is no danger to Earth. The closest distance remains vast. 3i Atlas is right now at 269 million kilometers away from us. Some researchers, including prominent voices in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, argue that objects like 3i Atlas force science to keep an open mind. Not to leap to conclusions, but not to dismiss questions either. The debate is not about aliens. It is about exploring, about recognizing how little we truly know about what drifts between the stars. As 3i Atlas flashes past Earth, it will not slow down. It will not return. Whatever secrets it carries will leave with it, unless we learn to read them fast enough. For a brief moment, the universe has knocked on our door, and science is listening. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
On to China now. It is sending out a rather chilling message on its war on corruption. In a sweeping crackdown, Beijing is combining executions, life sentences, and now public tip-offs to hunt down graft at the highest levels of power. In fact, China has reportedly executed a former senior banker for taking massive bribes. The banker once headed a state-owned offshore investment firm. Prosecutors say he abused his position between 2014 and 2018 and accepted bribes worth 1.1 billion yuan. That's around 116 million pounds. The court declared the crime extremely serious, citing severe damage to state interests and public trust. In fact, this execution comes as another powerful figure narrowly escapes the same fate. A Chinese court reportedly sentenced former senior Communist Party member Gu Zhongwen to death with a 2-year reprieve. The court stripped Gu of his political rights for life, confiscated all personal property, ordered more than 236 million yuan in illegal gains handed over to the state. The judges found he abused multiple high-ranking posts over 15 years, including roles as Beijing's vice mayor and China's sports chief, accusing him of trading influence for cash and valuables. The court has said the crimes warranted death, but granted leniency due to his cooperation and confession. And this crackdown, by the way, has taken a new turn as well. In a rather unprecedented move, China's military has publicly asked the citizens to report corruption inside its own Air Force procurement system. The appeal appeared on the PLA's official procurement website, urging tip-offs on contract bidding, evaluations, execution of deals. This marks the first time the PLA has singled out one military branch for public scrutiny in such a way. And the focus stays firmly on the Air Force as Beijing intensifies its military anti-graft drive. The move also fitting into Beijing's wider anti-corruption drive within the military. China's corruption crackdown has already claimed dozens of senior officers across commands and services this year. In October, the Communist Party expelled 9 top generals in one of the most dramatic military purges in decades, accusing them of serious financial crimes. So with all of this happening, what exactly is China signaling? What is the message that goes out? Zero tolerance? Or is it damage control? Regardless, one thing remains clear. In Xi Jinping's China, corruption carries the ultimate risk, the risk of losing one's life. In today's job market, finding the right role can feel a lot like chasing a mirage sometimes. Just when you think you've spotted that perfect opportunity, it disappears. That is because for many job seekers, it was never real to begin with. And these are called ghost jobs. What exactly are they? They are vacancies that appear very real, posted on company websites, job portals, social media platforms, for example, complete with the job requirements, descriptions, skill requirements, even the salary ranges. But behind all of that, behind that polished listing, there is no real intent to hire. Why put out such a post then? The term may sound like something from Halloween, but this is a very real and growing problem. It's happening on both sides of the Atlantic. Studies showing just how widespread this has actually become. A report across the US, UK, and Germany found that up to 22% of online job ads last year had no real intention of leading to a hire. A separate UK study put that number even higher at 34%. In the US, labor market is cooling. Official data showing job openings dropped to about 7.18 million in July, the lowest level in 10 months. But then here's the catch. Fresh analysis suggesting more than a quarter of those jobs may not even exist. According to career website, 27.4% of US job listings on LinkedIn are likely ghost jobs. basically posts with no actual plan to fill up that role. But then why would companies do this? Companies post ghost jobs for a variety of reasons. Some are building a talent pool, collecting resumes for future use. Others could be doing it just to create hype, making the business appear to be growing or thriving. And in some cases, it's purely market research testing. What skills are out there, who is available, who is not, how much they cost. These are also internal policy issues. And of course, sometimes it's just human error. In fact, job seekers should be able to protect themselves, but how do they do that? You could be watching out for a lack of specific details, also vague responsibilities, unclear reporting lines. Also be cautious of the jobs that are continuously reposted month after month with no updates. Also pay attention to a lack of a structured hiring process, no follow-ups, no interviews, and no clear timelines as such. In fact, the damage caused by ghost jobs is rather significant. And it cuts both ways. For job seekers, ghost jobs could erode trust, also waste their time, and create emotional fatigue. For companies, they could damage the brand reputation, weaken the credibility of HR departments, and also create internal morale issues when employees see roles advertised that don't actually exist out there. As ghost jobs continue to haunt the hiring process, both employers and platforms are under growing pressure to clean up the system. So the next time you see vacancies, do not forget to ask questions and also watch out, because your dream job may not be real. The holy grail of clean energy is no longer a distant dream. It is now closer to reality. Something thought to be science fiction till a few decades ago is actually turning out to be reality. A British breakthrough has just cracked the code on the process that powers the sun itself. Take a look.
Absolutely clean energy is no longer a distant dream. The global race for infinite energy has just shifted into high gear. British scientists have achieved a milestone in nuclear fusion that brings the world to the precipice of a post-carbon era. Nuclear fusion isn't just another power source, it is the physical union of atomic nuclei. By fusing hydrogen isotopes under extreme pressure and heat reaching millions of degrees, we release vast amounts of energy with zero carbon emissions and no long-lived radioactive waste. An artificial intelligence model called Gyroswin, developed by the UK Atomic Energy Authority, can now predict how ultra-hot fusion plasma will twist, churn, and misbehave inside a reactor in seconds, not days. This British success builds on a foundation of international rivalry and cooperation. The United States recently shocked the world at the National Ignition Facility, achieving ignition where more energy was produced than consumed. China's artificial sun has set records for plasma duration, holding stable reactions for several minutes. India, a key player in the multi-billion-dollar ITER project, has successfully delivered massive cryostats and cooling systems, proving its prowess in high-end fusion engineering. Fusion, like the fission process, does not emit harmful substances like carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases, but it also has additional critical advantages. It poses no risk of nuclear disaster and produces much less radioactive waste. The UK breakthrough specifically tackles the exhaust problem, managing the intense heat that typically melts reactor walls. This brings commercial viability within reach. Imagine a world where a single bucket of seawater can power a city for a year. The implications are staggering. We are talking about the end of energy poverty and the total decarbonization of the planet. For the first time, the age of star power feels within human reach. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
China has issued a sharp response to the United States. It has told the Americans to stop arming Taiwan immediately. Beijing added that no one should underestimate its capability to defend its territory. The review coming after the Trump administration approved the potential sale of 8 arms packages worth $11 billion to Taiwan. The packages include HIMARS rocket systems, howitzers, anti-tank missiles, drones, and parts for other equipment. This is the second batch of such sales since Trump returned to office. Taiwan's defense ministry, in fact, says the sale is expected to officially take effect in about 1 month. The sale needs the U.S. Congress approval during a mandatory review period. Taiwanese president has vowed to ramp up defense spending as China maintains military pressure around the island. 5 of the 8 arms packages deal with new weapon systems. These include the sale of high-mobility artillery rocket systems, related equipment, self-propelled howitzers, and related equipment. Now, both these packages will cost over $4 billion. The U.S. will also sell drone systems, anti-tank missiles, optically tracked, wire-guided missile systems. The State Department has also approved the sale of tactical mission network software, equipment, services to Taiwan. The package is also including the sale of helicopter spare and repair parts and related equipment, as well as Harpoon missile repair follow-on support. The United States does not recognize Taiwan as a country, but is the self-ruled island's biggest security backup. Its arms supplies are a key deterrent against a potential attack from China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory and has threatened to use force to bring it under its control. Shifting focus, Cisco has issued a serious warning about Chinese hackers exploiting a zero-day vulnerability, threatening full takeover of devices running some of the country's most popular products. In fact, the tech giant has said no patches are currently available, making the situation urgent for organizations using affected systems. According to Cisco, the hacking campaign targets its software, particularly the Cisco Secure Email Gateway. Cisco Secure Email and Web Manager. The company has said the vulnerability only affects devices with the spam quarantine feature enabled and accessible from the internet. Cisco noted that this feature is not enabled by default and does not need to be internet-facing, which may reduce the risk for some users. Cybersecurity experts are warning that the campaign is particularly concerning since many large organizations use the products. There are no patches available, and it is unclear how long the hackers have had the backdoors in these systems. Cisco saying customers should wipe and rebuild the affected products if compromised. And that's currently the only way to remove the hackers' access. The hackers are tied to Chinese government-linked groups reportedly, according to Cisco Talos, the company's threat intelligence team. The campaign is believed to have started in late November 2025, with hackers taking advantage of the zero-day vulnerability to install persistent backdoors. Cisco is reportedly investigating and developing a permanent remediation, but has not disclosed how many customers have been impacted. As conflicts rage across the world, has fake news become a potent tool to destabilize countries? Even a sitting president has not been spared. The French president has become the latest victim of this menace which is increasingly making its presence felt, Emmanuel Macron was startled when his counterpart from an African country reportedly asked him about a coup attempt in France. He based his input on a French-language AI-generated video reportedly posted on Facebook. It garnered 13 million views by then. The French president told a newspaper that Meta was asked to remove the video as it was causing chaos. Meta's reply: it reportedly rejected the demand, claiming that the video did not violate its terms of use. And then Macron took an indirect swipe at US tech giants and demanded a stricter regulation of social media platforms. He accused them of mocking the sovereignty of France and lamented that even he does not have leverage over them. What exactly was this fake video all about? Who put it out? It showed an unidentified individual reporting purportedly that the French president had been overthrown in a coup. The reporter, the so-called reporter in that video, was seen holding a mic of a non-existent news channel. The video posted by a user has now been taken down. It's worth recalling here that Facebook rolled back its fact-checking program in January this year itself, citing reportedly that its rules censored trivial content. Now, this is not the first time another AI-generated video surfaced online just a few days earlier. It falsely showed a reporter from a media outlet reportedly relaying fake news about a coup in France. It was uploaded by the same user reportedly and got 3 million views before being removed. The French president and his wife have faced online harassment in the past, of course, when conspiracy theories suggested that she was born male, for example. In November this year, Macron announced that a new legislation to block digital disinformation is on the cards. The proposed bill is likely to provide swift justice to victims of fake news, as a judge might have to pass a ruling within 48 hours and order the perpetrators to remove the offending posts. This was seen as a concerted push against Russia's alleged disinformation efforts, which the French officials claim have intensified over the last 2 years. And control over social media platforms has become contentious. A number of questions out there, with the EU increasingly acting against US tech giants. In April, for example, Meta was slapped with a fine of £200 million over its new data collection policy. In fact, after the European Commission recently fined social media platform X, reportedly, for breaching transparency obligations, the US has cried foul and threatened countermeasures on European service providers. And as the EU and the US continue to engage in this squabble, who will blink first? Is there a feasible solution to curb this menace? Shifting focus, tensions between Albania's ruling party and the opposition escalated during a parliamentary session in the country's capital. The session was called to vote for the next Albanian ombudsman, the country's top human rights official. Take a look. Hollywood star Angelina Jolie has revealed the scars from her preventative double mastectomy as she featured on the latest issue of a magazine cover. She underwent the surgery in 2013 after discovering that she carried a genetic mutation that put her at high risk of developing breast cancer. 2 years later, in 2015, the actor also chose to have her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed to reduce the risk of ovarian cancer. And now the actor has revealed the scars. However, she is not the only high-profile celebrity who has been vocal about her health journey. Several prominent stars, including Christina Applegate, Kathy Bates, among others, have also undergone surgeries either as a preventive measure or following a breast cancer diagnosis, bringing greater visibility to choices around risk reduction and treatment. Many of these stars have spoken openly about their decisions, often linked to mutations or family histories of cancer. As for Angelina Jolie, the 50-year-old actor also spoke about her upcoming film, where she plays an American film director attending Paris Fashion Week to shoot a major fashion event, all while grappling a serious medical diagnosis and a divorce. Directed by a French filmmaker, the drama premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September. Angelina Jolie told reporters that filming the diagnosis scenes was deeply emotional and sparked intimate conversations about loss, grief, and healing. By openly sharing her story on and off screen, she continues to spark global conversations around women's health and other issues. Indian fashion model turned journalist Meher Castelino, the first ever Femina Miss India crowned in 1964 and a trailblazer in Indian fashion journalism, has passed away at the age of 81. Born in Mumbai, her journey when it comes to fashion and beauty started in the 1960s. She went on to represent India on major global platforms, including the Miss Universe and Miss United Nations contests. A celebrated commercial and ramp model, she featured in more than 2,000 live fashion shows worldwide, many of which she conceptualized and directed herself. She also led design departments for several export-oriented and domestic fashion houses, building a career that spanned over 14 years on the runway. In 1973, she published her first article, marking a decisive shift from modeling to writing. What followed was a prolific second career as a full-time fashion journalist and syndicated columnist, making her one of the earliest pioneers of fashion journalism in India. Her work appeared in nearly 160 national and international publications, widely traveled. She was invited across Europe, the United States, Africa, and Asia to attend major shows, interview leading designers, and bring global fashion narratives to Indian readers. She leaves behind a remarkable legacy, to say the least, one that bridged Indian fashion with the world and redefined how style stories were told. In a rare and remarkable moment, researchers in Canada have documented something that scientists almost never see: a polar bear mother adopting a cub that is not her own. Spotted months apart in the Arctic wilderness, the same female polar bear was first seen with one cub and later with two, one biological, one adopted. In a species known for the harsh realities of survival, this was an unexpected act of care and is now being hailed by scientists as extraordinary. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks for watching.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.